This happened in my early 20s, so about 10 years ago, and it makes my skin crawl trying to think of what might have happened to me. Around 10:30 on a summer evening, I was driving home from my boyfriend's house and stopped to grab something to eat from a fast food joint. I also ordered a hamburger patty for my dog, who was in the back seat of my car. The street I need to turn left on to go home is busy, and there is no stoplight. While I was waiting, I'm eating some of my food with my window half down, enjoying the nice weather. Then, I hear someone say something to my left and see a group of 4 guys about a block away, walking to my direction down the sidewalk. Since my radio was on, I didn't hear what they said, and I stupidly turned it down and said, "What?" One of the guys in front starts saying something, but again, I miss what he's saying. I glanced back at the seat and see a wall full of traffic both ways. Unable to turn, and consider turning right instead so I can just leave. The guy speaks again, and this time I heard him. "Hey, can we get a ride?" "Oh, no," I stammered out. This isn't good. They're about 10 feet away from my car at this point, and I start rolling up my window while glancing between the guys in traffic. Still, no openings. My window was almost up as that car had power windows that were so damn slow. Maybe a couple inches left, and I decided to go back up into the parking lot and leave via an exit that led through a neighborhood. I put my car into reverse right as the guy who asked for a ride gets to my door. He was heavily leaning up against the door and asks if him and his friends could get a ride. The way he was asking wasn't right, and his friends walked up pretty close behind him. The next bit happened so fast, but felt like minutes went by. I took my foot off the brake and started reversing back into the parking lot because my brain was screaming at me to leave immediately. And rightfully so, because as I say nope and start to roll back, he tries to open my car door. I can still remember the thud sound of the handle snapping back down. Suddenly my dog, who had been previously enjoying his hamburger and oblivious to what's happening, jumped up and started throwing himself and bouncing off the window, barking and snarling. The guy at my door put his hands up and said, "Oh, I didn't know you had a dog." And he and his friends quickly backed away as I floored it backwards with my heart in my throat. I didn't know my way through the neighborhood exit well, but I kept driving and turning down streets until I figured out where I was. Once I got home and was safely in my garage with the door shut, I realized how much I was shaking. No idea what those guys wanted to do, but I'm glad I didn't find out. I'm so thankful my dog lost his shit and provided enough of a surprise and distraction for me to get out of there, and also to my mom for teaching me to always keep my car doors locked. Many years ago, I used to work the night shift at a hotel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. During the season, it wasn't so bad, mostly families and such. We had an on-site security back then too. However, in the off-season, the winter months were different. The cheap weekly rates would often attract a lot of creepy people. The idea was supposed to be to make money in the off-season by renting to what are known as snowbirds, older retired people who came to the beach for a month or more during the winter. It did not always work out that way though. The cheaper rates made it more possible for a less than desirable element to become long-term residents. I've discovered more than my fair share of meth labs, broken up assaults, and more during the winter months. Working the third shift, I would meet some interesting people. The cold weather meant some homeless people would come in to get warm and grab a cup of free coffee. I wasn't supposed to let them, but it's not in me to be cruel. I would let them grab a cup of coffee and get warm for a minute, as long as they didn't cause any trouble. As you can see, the night shift in the winter made for some crazy and sometimes creepy stories. I have a lot, but this one stands out because it didn't end well for me. I had a great night up until this point. I went to an indie wrestling show with my best friend before work. In fact, I had agreed to come in an hour early the next night for the young lady that worked the second shift in exchange for her working an hour late for me on this night, so I could enjoy the wrestling show. Ironically enough, I met Terry Funk that night, a wrestling legend known for his hardcore and bloody matches. Little did I know, I was about to experience this kind of violence for real. I was supposed to be there at midnight due to her working over an hour for me. I normally came in at 11 p.m. I counted the register and she briefed me on her shift as usual. As she was leaving, my friend, whom we'll call Andrew, pulled up. He worked second shift maintenance at this hotel, and the other 2 hotels are company owned. He would regularly stop by after work and grab us some food, and we would play World of Warcraft on our laptops after eating for a while, since business was so slow. He was just getting my money, ordering food, and getting ready to leave. I was excited, telling him how much fun I had at the wrestling show and showing him my Terry Funk t-shirt I was so proud of. I was just walking into the back office to put the t-shirt up when I heard the doorbell indicating a customer had entered. I had turned around, and when I heard someone say something loudly, but I still couldn't make out what they said, I'd reached the doorway when I saw Andrew fall down in front of me. The next thing I know, a guy walks around the corner and punches me in the head with a short steel pipe in his hand. It staggered me, and I went to one knee. He hits me in the head with the pipe. The next thing I know, I hear the other guy, whom I didn't notice up until this moment, say he got away and got a cop. I was finally able to get onto my feet. I tried to call the police from the phone in the back office, but it was having issues. I slammed it in frustration. I was hurting and scared, really freaking out. I realized that they could come back, so I ran and locked the door. I didn't know where Andrew had gone, and that worried me. I called 911 about this time. Blood had started pouring down my head. I told the operator that I had been attacked and needed an officer and an ambulance. I then called the other hotel and let the night manager, named Travis, who was over all 3 properties, know what had happened. He thought I was messing with him at first because when we got bored, we would prank call each other. I finally convinced him I was not joking. He was going to lock up and come down. The cops and ambulance pulled up, and I opened the door. It was at this time I found out that they sucker punched him and knocked him down. Andrew was able to amazingly jump over the desk and escape just as a cop was driving by, which he ran to flag down for help. I ended up going to the hospital ER, where I had to have 10 staples in my scalp, and they gave me morphine for pain. I had no way to get home after being treated, but the doctor and nurses took pity on me and paid for a cab. My plan was to go back to work because this was December and Christmas was coming. I had 3 kids and needed all the hours I could get. When I got back to the hotel, the IT guy, Ted, was there with his wife Barbara, who also worked at the front desk. She was shocked to see me. She thought I'd still be in the hospital. I thought I'd only been hit in the head once after being punched. The video, which Ted was pulling up for the police, showed a different story. After I went to one knee, the guy had hit me not once, but a total of 10 times. I kept trying to grab the pipe and get up for some reason. I don't remember that. I guess I was out on my feet. He kept punching and hitting me with the pipe till his friend told him that Andrew got away and then got the cops. The 2 of them ran out. I was given a room at the other hotel we own, and Ted and Barbara gave me a lift there, and I was in no condition to drive due to the morphine. They also gave me a paid week off to heal. They switched me over to the other hotel on the night shift for a month, just in case they were after me in particular. We never found out why they chose to attack me. The police thought it might have been a failed strong-arm robbery, due to Andrew getting away and me just not going down. It shook me up, though, not knowing. Even though I was at the other hotel, when I came back to work the night shift, I was still nervous. Every time the door chimed, I tensed up. I couldn't afford to quit, though. As I said, I had 3 kids I was supporting. They never caught the guy as far as I know. A detective stopped by about 2 months later when I was working second shift. He showed me several mugshots and asked me if any of them looked familiar. I never got a great look at them. It all happened so fast. I had seen the video, which wasn't the best quality. Even so, 2 of them looked very familiar, like them. I pointed them out, and he asked me how sure I was. I told him honestly, like 85%. He then yelled and asked me if I wanted someone to go to jail for attempted murder on 85%. I was so stunned into silence. I was the victim, and I was attacked for no reason, and he is yelling at me like it's my fault I was busy being attacked to not get a good enough look at them. I no longer work at a hotel and night shift, and I'm glad, because it's just too dangerous in this area. I'm driving home at about 9:30 p.m. My route contains a variety of areas, including some single-lane, quiet roads. Driving along one of these single-lane roads, I end up having to slow down because of a man standing in the middle of the road, facing away from my car. Now I have my full beams on at this point, and there's no way he doesn't know that I'm driving behind him. He just decides to wait until I've come to an almost complete stop before turning around. I'm of course worried about this guy, thinking maybe he needs help. He doesn't seem to be visibly intoxicated from what I can tell, and he doesn't appear to be injured or confused, so I assume he's mostly okay. After a little while of standing, he raises his arms in a, well, kind of motion. I don't know if he was expecting me to back up or hit him or what. So I decided to sound my horn and try and nudge him along a bit. I just wanted to go home. This made him flip out completely. He closes the distance to my car and starts pounding on it, yelling at me like crazy. I couldn't hear what he was saying though. He does this for what must have only been a few seconds, but it felt way longer. And before rounding the side of my car and punching the driver's side window at full force, fortunately, it didn't crack. The second I know he's out of the way, I floor it and get the hell out of there, happy in the knowledge that he couldn't catch up to me. So yeah, that was my first creepy encounter, and hopefully my last. I hope Mr. Spooky Car Puncher is okay and gets whatever help he might need. Though, it's probably best to start with a doctor for his likely broken hand.